Hey YouTube, it's the Busy Diva. And before I forget, I'm going to ask that you please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And as well, if you like this fly hat and infinity scarf set that I'm wearing, visit my Instagram at Busy Diva. That's Busy Diva, Bizeediva at Instagram. Anyway, because I also crochet. That's one of my things that I really love to do. I make all kind of nice items. I make hats, I make scarves, blankets, slippers. I get a request for it, I'll try to make it. Last thing I made, I did these cute earwarmer crowns. So stop by my Instagram page and check it out. Okay, now, first things first, the more I watch the news, the more the cry for homeschooling of our black children just seems to be a thing that just should happen. If I had it to do over again, I probably would consider it for my child. But I tell you what, these schools are just not friendly to our children. For some reason, our kids just cannot be kids. They are criminalized, they're quicker to be suspended, they're quicker, it's much faster for them to be, thrown out of school, suspended, get in trouble, get written up, at the drop of a dime, where other children, they're are just kids, they're just growing up and they're just learning, or they're just babies, but our kids seem to be put in a whole nother category and are definitely not treated the same. I have two heartbreaking stories. First one is out of Houston. A mom was called to come to the school only to find that her 11-year-old son has been airlifted to the hospital. Why? His heart didn't stop like some kids. He didn't have an injury on the playground, but he had an injury at the hands of school faculty. Allegedly, according to the mother, there was some dispute that he had taken a juice box. Now, it wasn't said whether or not he took it, but it was a juice box. I don't see anything that could warrant what happened to this child. So, some type of disagreement ensued, and allegedly, from what we're understanding, is a male faculty member, the teacher, from what she says, picks this child up by his hoodie. She shows a picture of the hoodie ripped where the hood is nearly ripped off. Now, if you have a hoodie, you know that that material is kind of stretchy and it's not the easiest thing to tear. This hoodie had the hood almost ripped off of it. Anyhow, she said from the video she viewed, she could see his feet up in the air, which led her to believe that this child was possibly choking. So, whatever disagreement ensued, this kid ends up being snatched up by his hoodie and allegedly thrown into a table. Now, that's pretty serious. Serious for the fact that they claim he took a juice box. It's not even said whether or not he really took it or not. He was accused, and apparently he didn't, cop that he did it. And for whatever reason, this teacher or administrator got so angry, and apparently it was a bigger person to be able to pick this kid up by the hoodie to the point that his feet are in the air and sling him across to hit a table. I mean, that's a serious thing. That kid could have got killed because you hit yourself in the head. You can hit yourself in any place, on your head. You could wind up dead. And this child had a gash that was so serious that I guess the school figured a band-aid wasn't enough, and whatever reason, it gave them pause to call an ambulance to actually have him airlifted. Now, when someone is airlifted to the hospital, which in Houston they have airlifting service, they call it life flight. And when someone is life flighted to the hospital, it's really serious. I mean, usually an ambulance and a vehicle comes to pick you up, but if the helicopter has to come pick you up, it's a pretty serious injury. And the school apparently felt this injury was bad enough for them to actually call, for him to be airlifted. That, or either they were just doing damage control, knowing that this child was slung into a table, you know, like that. And last that I've heard on this report, the person that did this is on paid administrative leave. which amounts to paid vacation. No charges so far were filed. Now, the disheartening thing about this, if the parent would have gotten mad at the child and slung their child into a table and gashed the head open so badly that the kid needed stitches, and by the way, the child had to have 6 stitches um, shown above his eye. I mean, they could have hit him in his eye. They could have put his eye out, as they say. I mean, so many things could have happened to this child over a juice box. Seriously? And this person only received so far paid administrative leave, which is amounts to paid vacation. I would just go home and sit it out until, and no charges filed. Now, in this age of child abuse, where kids are told if your parent hits you, police will come with the quickness and take you to jail if there's a mark on your kid. This child had a bleeding gash across his head and had to be airlifted to the hospital. And nothing has happened to this person so far. No arrest, no charges. I mean, really? Seriously? This is outrageous, and I don't understand, there needs to be something done. I mean, teachers and other people can handle our children with impunity and do almost anything to our kids and nothing happens to them. But let the parents spank their child, let a belt leave a light welt on him, and the parent is spanking that child in correction and out of love, contrary to what you people who don't believe in whipping and paddling and spanking, think. A parent that's truly disciplining a child. I'm not talking about a parent who's abusing a child, who's, beating them mercilessly and filming them on social media and burning them and doing all that kind of stuff. But to spank their child, if a little mark is left, they go to jail. No questions asked. Kids get snatched away, taken to foster care, and they go to jail. I mean, there's a woman on social media who I did not agree with that video because, number one, if you have to discipline your child, I don't think filming it on social media is appropriate thing to do. But she went up to the school. Teacher stood there where she mercilessly beat her child with the belt and cursed the kid out and said all kind of stuff to the kid, though the kid, didn't have to be airlifted to the hospital or anything. And because it was posted to social media and they saw it, she got taken to jail and those children got taken away from her, I guess until such time they figure they should go back. Now, this was this child's parent, and this child's parent did it on school grounds. Nothing seemed to happen to the teacher, and she stood there and watched her do it. Usually, if you don't report abuse, you're in trouble, but this teacher didn't report anything. She was standing there like she was scared she's going to get some. But that was okay. But the parent went to jail, is my point. This teacher that slung this little boy around like basically like a rag doll, allegedly, has so far as reports that I've heard, nothing has happened to him. That's just not right. You know, Parents can't discipline their children a little, barely make any type of even a little bit of red on their skin, and they're going to jail. This teacher's sitting home paid. This administrator, whatever it is, sitting in her home and getting paid still. No charges, no police was called. Even with the child being airlifted, you know, they're even supposed to report, something that happens. But apparently, for some reason, that nothing was reported. CPS didn't come around. They're not talking about CPS getting involved. Nothing. It's being investigated through the school. And this was supposedly in a Cy-Fair school district, which is considered a decent school district in the Houston area, you know. So it doesn't seem to matter where our children are, if they're to be treated like anything, it doesn't matter what district they're in. Our children are treated less. Now, I'm just safely saying, had this happened to a little white child, if a black teacher would have picked up a white child, now I'm not knowing if this teacher that snatched this child like this was what race it was, but still, if anyone would have picked up a little white child, not even let it be a rich, wealthy child, and slung that child across a table and gashed the child's eye, then the life flight or the air in the child to be life flighted or airlifted to a hospital. Do you know what kind of outrage that would be? I mean, that teacher would be in jail. Police would be there. CPS. I mean, so many things would have happened. But this little African American boy, nothing. The teacher's on paid administrative leave while the school investigates. Basically, while the hen, where the what they call it, the wolf garden, the hen house. You know, that's just not right on so many levels. And it'd be nice if someone would pick up this case. Some activists would come on and you know, let's see what's going on about this. It's just not right. Then, not to have my heart broke again, I come in and see the world news, and this time out of the state of Florida. A little girl, 6 years old, the school police is zip tying her hands while the poor little girl's just crying. Please give me another chance. Please don't put those handcuffs on me. I mean, she is just it's just sad. And she wasn't fighting, she wasn't doing anything. They claim she had a temper tantrum and she hit a teacher and this and that, but they never said what really happened for the temper tantrum to ensue, for everything to get started. From a report I heard today, they said her grandmother says she didn't get enough sleep the night before. And kids can be grumpy if they don't get enough sleep. Adults get grumpy if they don't get enough sleep. And she's a little 6 year old girl. And here this man, unfortunately and sad to say, another African American man, an Uncle Tom, I'm going to call him. Tom, I'm going to call him Uncle Ruckus. If anybody knows about the show Boondocks, who Uncle Ruckus is. Uncle Ruckus put these handcuffs on these little girl, zip ties, cuffed this little girl like a criminal, put her in the back of a police car, took her to the police station, and then was talking about, well, I broke the record because now the youngest that I arrested was 6, and I believe he said he's arrested over 6,000 kids in his career or his time, and this is the youngest. I mean, pretty much bragging about arresting a little 6 year old girl. And even if she did have a tantrum, that's what children do. That's what little kids do. I work with the little children in my church sometimes. I work from the teenagers to the tweens, and sometimes I substitute and work and help with the little children. We call them the little people in my church because of their age range from 1 to, let's see, what is the age range? The official age is 1 to 5. And sometimes we keep them a little younger, depends on, who, if we're substituting once in a while, if we have enough staff on hand. But sometimes kids throw tantrums. Sometimes they're acting out. Sometimes they're just tired. And when little kids get tired, they can cut up. I have a couple of little grands in my life, and when they get tired, oh my goodness. They cry, they whine, they get grumpy, and for whatever reason, they said this little girl had hit the teacher or whatever. But you know what? They don't say what made this happen, because every kid that gets sleepy doesn't really always throw such a fit that they're fighting and hitting all the time. So something had to occur, not saying that the teacher started it or who started it, but something occurred to make a situation escalate. And then but the sad and awful thing about this situation was when the cop got there to get the little girl from the principal's office, she was calm. Because when he came to get her, she wasn't crying, she wasn't screaming, she wasn't whining, she was quiet and she was calm. So for a little child like that, okay, you got her quiet and calm. That's the point. You take them to the principal office, de-escalate the situation, and you should move on. But no, they called in the police. Now, the news report that I listened to was saying that they didn't intend for the police to arrest her. Okay, if you didn't intend for the police to arrest her, why was he called? First of all, why do you need a police officers in a little elementary school with little children? I remember the only time when I was in school, and it was a long time ago, that we saw police in the school was when they were doing a demonstration, when they started using police dogs to show how they smell, drugs and what police dogs do. And they had them like for a show and tell. And that's close as they only really ever had a police officer, or a police officer basically telling us what police do, explaining that to us kids. And even so, we were older kids, more or less in the middle school age when they did that. I mean, we didn't have police patrolling the schools, like a militarized zone where as if they're looking for something to pop off so they can, what are they what's the plan? They want to shoot up some children? I mean, what was the point of taking that child to jail? Now, I don't even see it if she was still throwing the fit. Okay, have her there, have procedures to de-escalate a situation. That's what classroom management is about. That is why they have extra staff, on hand if kids, you know, get upset or start throwing tantrums, whatever. That's what children do. Why isn't it what our children do? But other children, oh, they were tired, they were sleepy, they excuse them. But our children, they call the police. Really? This society is so hateful, towards black children. This is like an attack. And it's sad that they're using um, other blacks to demonize our children. Yeah, people always use this term, oh, them bad little kids, they're bad, they're bad. But were you not a kid once? Did you not, ever throw a tantrum? And I know a lot of people, I'm a little bit from the old school. All they need to do is they wouldn't do that because they know they get whipping, or they know that, they do this, kids, out of control. Yeah, but if kids were so out of control, how did they get that way? I mean, you're in a school, they're children. No child is going to be perfect. And that's the sad thing about, these public school system is like every kid has to be a certain way. If any kid deviates from the little perfect little soldiers that way of they're supposed to be, they're labeled, they're trouble, they're hyper, they're this. They want to put them on medication. They want to expel them. Suspend them. They want to send them to in-house suspension. Then they want to suspend them out of school. I mean, this is so many things, and statistics already say that African American black children are suspended, are written up, are put into trial. Strongly disciplined more than other children, especially more than white children. So that just tells you something about this sad society that we live in. As parents, parents got to become more aware of what's going on these days. Gotta pay attention to these school systems. I know there's movements out there about, voting and not voting, and the movements, as far as I'm concerned, none of these people deserve our vote unless they have an agenda for us. And one of the agendas for the black people, for ADOS, American descendants of slaves, aside from our reparations, are one of the items is justice. Just justice, court justice, period. Not only justice, for the criminal courts, but justice for our children. And I was just couldn't fathom, how is it that you're arresting a 6-year old? Well, guess what? I looked it up to see what the age for a child, minimum age for a child to be placed in juvenile detention. In the state of Florida, guess what? They say that there is no minimum age, according to what I looked up from their state information. There is no minimum age for juveniles to be detained in juvenile detention. Do you hear that? No minimum age. So they could put a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, if they want to deem that child a criminal. And this child, had a charge against her. And but then after all this went viral, and the body cam video was released, I heard it was a request that it be released. And after, this story went viral, well, of course, they ended up dropping the charges. But just to think, starting at as little as 6-year-old, you can have a criminal record. And they also mentioned, there was mention also that the child's record would be expunged. Do you hear what I'm saying? So, in other words, they were going to have a criminal charge on this child's record that would follow her through. She's not even out of elementary school. to middle school, to high school. These things will follow this child. So now when this child gets in higher grades, you know, there's opportunities for kids to participate in different activities that can help enrich their education, activities that can give them chances for scholarship, opportunities that can help them to put them on a path to college. And some colleges will not accept students with a criminal record. Now this child was about to have a criminal record from 6 years old, before the child could even finish high school, before the child could even get into high school. This child was already marked with criminal um a criminal record. I mean, how unjust is that? And how many other kids are they doing this to? How many kids are they doing this to that are not black? I can just bet other races, and not just other white children, Asian children, Hispanic children, Indian children. I wonder how many of those children they're tacking criminal records on when they throw a fit. Black children are not the only children that throw tantrums when they're tired or when they mad. Black children are not the only children that may talk back or get out of line, but that's the thing, they're children. You teach them, you correct them, and keep it moving. But these schools are so, how should I put it, just so like they hold grudges against our children, so that even if the situation is de-escalated, they'll just hold on and go ahead and put it on their record. Hold on, write them off, use it. I mean, I know a child in particular who, this child can act fine the next day. Something happened. Oh, they'll dig back to 2 days before and, oh, we're going to put this on their record and add to whatever it is to make up enough stuff so that they can suspend the child and get rid, and just cause more problems. I mean, this system, this is really unjust and unfair. And, I think that should also be a part of our agenda, and part of the reparations and the repair that we need for this black community. These people in these schools need to stop treating our children like criminals. And as long as parents don't say anything, as long as the rest of us in the black community say, oh, they just bad kids, they shouldn't have done this. Yeah, they shouldn't have. But are you really saying that about other children? Would you have really picked up a little white kid or an Asian kid or a Hispanic kid or Indian kid, picked them up by their hoodie and slung them into a table? Do you know that teacher would have been under the jail? I'm telling you, I don't believe that teacher would be on no paid administrative leave, having done that to that child. Having arrest, would they even think to arrest a little girl, a little 6-year-old girl of any other nationality? I mean, I looked at this little video that went viral. People thought it was cute, but I kind of looked at it a little more in depth. And the little girl wound up on Ellen, but she was on Facebook and she was saying someone stole her perfect attendance pencil. She was the cutest little thing. I'm going to find out she was not far from the Houston area. And so she was talking about telling her mom about this little girl that stole her perfect attendance pencil. Apparently, she earned this pencil that was very special to her. And apparently, they put them where, in one place to be sharpened, and another kid took it. She knew who the kid was that took it. Now, I'm looking at this story. This child is been wronged, and even the teacher wouldn't make the other child give it back to her. Our children, it's little things like that we need to pay attention to, how our children's feelings are just so minimized. It was just, she was just basically put down. It wasn't important enough to make the other child who wronged her do what was right. They knew who took it, and the child was there, and they didn't make it give it back until I think later, if the end of the day, the other kid finally, gave it back to her. But I don't think it was because, and from what I hear, it wasn't because the teacher made her give it back, but the teacher should have gave that back. Now, had this little girl stolen something from that same child, and my understanding, that was a little white child that stole her pencil, no one made her give it back, and the little girl's feeling was hurt, and you can tell, she was so cute and so articulate in how she said it, but her feelings were hurt because she worked and earned it. It might seem minor, but the point is, We're not teaching our children. Kids are being allowed to mistreat. Our children are allowed to be mistreated. And even if it is at that level, that child was mistreated, she was wronged. And the teacher didn't make it right. And that's wrong. When our kids are wronged, you know, things don't have to be made right. They just have to take it. They just have to suffer. And we shouldn't just stand by and allow it. We just can't and stand by and sleep on this teacher that could have killed this little boy. Now, what if he would have killed that little boy? That was bad enough that they felt they should have him airlifted because he probably was bleeding really bad. Because I know if you get hit in your head, I've seen a person get hit across, in their head, and blood, you have a lot of vessels and stuff in your head, and you start bleeding in a heartbeat. I mean, that could have he could have blinded the child, because what if he would have hit him, his eye would have hit that table where it gashed this part. So by God's grace, it did gash this part. But what if it would have went to his eye? What if it would have hit him in his temple? In his temple, he probably would have been dead, you know? And this is just thrown under the rug as, oh, well, teachers just don't paid administrative leave. Seriously? We have got to really stand up, and people need to be held accountable for wronging our children. Now, the officer that arrested the little 6-year-old girl, of course, he was immediately fired. But it wasn't like this was the first child he'd arrested like that. Apparently, there was some reports that he'd been arresting little kids. So, I'll tell you what, it's praying time, but people, we need to be aware. We need to pay attention to what's going on out here, and we need to take care of our children because others are not. And those of us in the community, we need to stop and think about what you're doing, because you know what goes around does come around. And God says, what you do to the least of my little ones, you do it to me. It's better for have a millstone tied around your neck and be tossed in the sea than to harm my little ones. So you people out there who are harming our kids, treating our children like they're nothing, you better get your act together, because you're going to answer. If you don't answer to someone, you're going to answer to the man above. But you know what? You're going to answer. And it's a shame. And, let's just stay woke, wake up if you're not. Those of you perpetrating the wrong who look like the children you're perpetrating the wrong against, you better wake up, because you know what? Somebody's going to perpetrate something against you and think nothing of it, just like you're thinking nothing of our children, who are supposed to be all our children. Peace, you two.